Hello there, this is CC Schatz, and you are listening to WGSN DB Going Solo Network, and it's so great to have you. We have a very special show tonight. We're going to be showcasing kind of a lot of different platforms, our business platform, our authors platform, Going Solo with CC, and just WGSN as it comes. So y'all know that we are the single talk station, and we like to be able to bring you new and exciting bits and pieces of information, along with some really self-discovery, down deep learning experiences for you. So we try to help you, walk you along some of the difficult times in your life to really bring you to living your best life. That's what our station's about, WGSN DB Going Solo Network, and that's what all of our hosts and all of our guests and everyone that wants to reach out and really make a difference in your life. So we have got something totally new tonight, and this show, I'm very, very excited. We have a 2020 presidential candidate that's going to be speaking with us tonight. I'm going to bring her right on. Her name is Sharmin Smith, and I'm going to just bring her right here with us because I think it's so important that we that we just get every bit of information. Well, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
It's great having you. Now, those of you out there, you can call us if you'd like. You can, let me just explain to you how this is going to work tonight if you want to do this. As long as you have Google Chrome, you can come right into our lobby and join us right here on this platform and talk to us in person if you'd like. It's important to us to know what issues that are important to you. Not that you can ramble on and make a big political stand. That's not what we're really here about. My station is not about that. It's about growing of one's mind and heart and soul. But what I'd like for you to do is kind of talk about some of the issues that are maybe current today so that we can really open our minds to looking at the issues in a more broad fashion. So again, you can come right on board with us, or you can call us and I'll post the phone number. If you have a question, a comment that you want to say, please keep it clean, nice. I mean, we are all adults here and we respect you as equally as we hope you'll respect us. So let's get on with the show. So welcome so much to the journey of this 2020. That's, although we say that's not very far away, but it's just around the corner. I mean, we say it's just, we think about it's 18, we got a couple more years or whatever, but it's really just around the corner, isn't it?
It really is just around the corner. In the next 3 weeks, we'll finish up the midterm elections, and that's extremely important. But as soon as that's over, people will switch their focus to the presidential primaries that will be starting in 19, and then, of course, the big election in 2020. Donald Trump has already filed all of his paperwork as a candidate. He's collecting donations, and he is running with the intention of running again in 2020. I anticipate him to receive the RNC nomination, and the only way to beat him is to get the DNC nomination, and that's what I'm pursuing at this time.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about your journey. And I did post up the number here, so if anybody wants to call us, they want to make a comment, they're more than welcome to do that. I'll keep posting it from time to time. So tell us, how come you decided to do this? What is your journey that got you to the point where you feel like you want to do something to make a change?
So my story is a little different than everybody else's, and I've had to learn to embrace it through the years. One of the things that makes me a little bit different is I'm an author of a fictional book called Taming the Titta. And Titta is a Hawaiian word for an aggressive female personality that will fight you. So Shakespeare proved that he could tame a shrew, and I'd like to think that I proved that you don't tame a titta will tame you. And it is a fictional story about politics, religion, and a reality TV show giving Republicans a candidate capable of beating Hillary Clinton in 2016. I self-published the book 6 months before Trump announced his campaign, and a lot of what I wrote played out in real life, just not in the way that I wrote it. I wrote a beautiful story about uniting the nation and the world behind the common cause of eradicating pedophilia. As an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse, it is something that has plagued me greatly. And while as a kid I dreamed about growing up and becoming president, After I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2008, I thought my dreams of politics were over because no one in this country would ever elect somebody with a diagnosed mental health condition. And writing this book was a way to live out my fantasy of being involved in politics and making a positive change throughout the world. And so I self-published the book 6 months before Trump announced his campaign. And I have always had a reputation for knowing things I couldn't possibly know, but this book was 400 pages of proof. And my book is literally the solution to every problem that Trump has created, and it was extremely uncomfortable to watch it unfold. As topics that I picked in my book played out on the national stage, it was painful to see it twisted, and it was like watching my dream turn into a nightmare. And so for me, this is about taking my dream back, because I'm not the only one hurting here in America. We're all struggling with the changes that have come in the last few years. It's more personal for me in a different way, but I'm here with everybody suffering, and the only way we're going to make this better is if all of us pitch in. And even people like me who didn't think there was an opportunity for us, the normal rules don't apply anymore. And what I see is a society full of people who are struggling with the same issues that I've had the opportunity to attack head on. I see a country full of people suffering from PTSD. And now as we go through this Me Too movement, men and women don't know how to communicate with each other because they don't understand what the normal rules are, when nothing really changed, but everything changed overnight. And as a survivor, I have had to embrace some painful truths. And I really feel like I have developed the coping skills and the techniques to help all of us through this together. We have to come together and heal as a nation, as men, as women, as people. We need to find a way to come together, regardless of party, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. It's time to start voting on the person. And one of the things that Trump has really done a good job with is showing us who he is. And so I'm going to do my best to show you who I am. There are so many similarities between what actually happened and what I wrote in my book. It's a much better read post-election than it was pre-election. And if you're looking for an opportunity for an alternative election, I have 400 pages available for you right now on Amazon. It's on Kindle. You can get it for free through Kindle Unlimited. The book, again, is called Taming the Titta. Now, it is just a few years old. It started out to just be one book, and then it grew into a trilogy. And after Trump announced his campaign and so many things happened, I wasn't sure how to finish writing the book until this year. And I'm working with a screenwriter and a producer to turn the book into a script with the hopes of turning it into a movie. And there's a lot of things coming for me as I take this dream back. I was a mortgage professional. I worked in financial services for over 20 years. During the financial crisis of 2008, I was negotiating massive repurchase demands from Wall Street firms. I understand the numbers and the budget differently than any of the politicians that are currently elected. And quite frankly, the way some of the ones coming up behind them, they terrify me as well. As a mortgage professional, I know that the 2007 collapse was caused by mortgage-backed securities. And I love Hillary Clinton and I love Elizabeth Warren, but in 2016 they blamed that mortgage meltdown. They blamed the financial meltdown of 2008 on derivatives, and it was mortgage-backed securities. And when it happened, I thought, oh well, Hillary's in bed with Wall Street. That makes sense. But when Elizabeth Warren blamed it on derivatives, it broke my heart because I expected her to understand complex financial transactions better than that. And so for me, I love our country as a bill collector, as a mortgage underwriter, as a Navy brat and spouse. I care about this country with every breath that is in me. I do not serve. My father was a company commander back in the time of If it was an issue with your sea bag, you didn't need it. But I have sacrificed for this country with every breath of my life since I have been born. I love our military. I love our country. And I refuse to believe that there is anything so wrong with it that it can't be corrected with a little common sense and compassion. And so I'm throwing my name in the ring. I'm diving in head first. I am going to put every ounce of my being into this until 2020. And as I look around, I constantly see things that are pushing me in the right direction. The Nike campaign, sacrifice everything as long as you believe in something. I get it. I feel it. Everything is a taunt for me. My name is Sharmin. And, you know, as a kid, I hated my name. Until
you have a pretty name. You have a very pretty name.
Well, until I was about 16 when it became a fantastic pickup line. But as a kid, it was Sharmin. Oh, are you sweet?
I think I pronounced it Charmaine, but it's Sharmin.
Sharmin.
So let me ask you just a couple questions so that we can go on, because I know some people are thinking when you talk about you know, suffering from what is it?
PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right. So if you suffer about that, how is that going to, you know, they always question your mental, you know, abilities. So how are you going to be able to overcome that, or how is that going to be affected when you're, let's say you're in office? How is that going to be, you know, affected? How are we going to be, the American public, be affected by that?
Absolutely, because my PTSD impacts everything about me, and it impacts the logic and the way I handle things.
Mm-hmm.
We most commonly associate PTSD with war veterans who experience traumatic events, or police who see such horrible traumatic events. But the truth is that over 50% of the people who have PTSD have it from childhood sexual abuse, more than military and police combined. So what we're seeing right now with the Me Too movement is there is millions of sufferers of sexual assault who weren't able to get the treatment necessary to be able to deal with their flashbacks and their nightmares and their triggers. And for me, the last 10 years has been identifying them, understanding how they make me feel, figuring out ways to adapt and overcome them, and making sure that what I'm feeling in this moment is an emotion from this moment and not something that's overwhelming me from years ago that I never dealt with, because I've had this opportunity to deal with it and to develop healthy coping strategies. You know, there's a joke that what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, but it gives us some really unhealthy coping techniques. And we have a society full of people who are doing some really unhealthy coping techniques. Most of our drug addicts they're just trying to self-medicate. Most of our alcoholics, they're just trying to self-medicate. They don't have the ability to get the health care and the tips and the techniques and the medication that they need to truly treat this. And so one of the things that you will get from me as a president is somebody who understands mental health and will make it a priority to make sure every person in this country, even people who aren't citizens, are going to have the opportunity not to allow their mental health to overwhelm them to the point that they're not safe. You know, the reality is that 95% of people with a mental health condition are nonviolent. Most of us are abused. We're broken inside, and we know what it feels like to be abused and to be mistreated, and we would not ever treat another person that way. But we struggle with our sensitivities, and we don't succeed in speaking up for ourselves. And it has certainly been something that I have struggled with throughout my life. And finding ways to speak up and defend myself and to fight for other people the way no one ever fought for me, it strengthens me in a way that I never could have imagined. All those years that I struggled with the flashbacks of the violence in my home as a kid, every time a noise happened or somebody raised their voice or folded clothes in a tone, I never imagined it would come as a benefit for me to be able to talk about domestic violence and what I survived and what I went through and help share the coping techniques that I've developed so that other people can know that there is another life on the other side of the misery. Yes, it is painful. And yes, it broke my heart in a way I never thought I would experience, but it has made me stronger. It has made me more aware of my weaknesses. Before my diagnosis, I was kind of a robot. I never cried. I could get really angry, but showing weakness and emotion, that wasn't something that I excelled at. Certainly expressing my feelings to millions of people would have never happened. And it is an evolution that has taken place within me. And watching Donald Trump do some of the things he does, we all have a negative inner voice. We all beat ourselves up. We're our own worst critic. But watching him is kind of motivating because I'm confident there's no way I would do some of the things that he would do. And maybe I don't know how I'll handle each situation until I'm in it. But he has certainly given a good example of what not to do.
Absolutely. I can agree with you on that one. One thing that he did say as he was running for presidency and also afterwards is surrounding himself with good people. And of course, I think with any type of cabinet, you would certainly have to do that. You do that in business. You do it really at all walks of life, even in your own personal environment. You try to surround yourself with good, solid people that will help get you through when difficulties arise. So what I like so much is you have on your website all of the your campaign issues, which I thought was very important. You've laid them right out there, plain and so that everyone can see. Something I did notice though too is that when I was looking on your LinkedIn account, it didn't mention, it said School of Hard Knocks. Did you go to any type of, do you have a college degree or anything like that, or?
I did not go to college. I graduated from high school in 1993. I went to high school in Idaho. Public school kid. I've lived all over the country as a military brat. I had two choices when I graduated from high school. I could go to college or I could go to work. And college wasn't an option for me. I couldn't afford it. And I rolled right out of high school into a office career and into something that led me into financial services. And I went to work in a time where having a high school diploma wasn't an insult. And it wasn't a requirement to get a college degree. And people valued you based off of your common sense and your work ethic and your ability to follow through critical thinking skills. And so I excelled, and I had the opportunity to excel based off of my work ethic and my personal intellect. As you can read and you can comprehend, pretty much anything is available to you. And I don't know if you remember the first year of The Apprentice, but I really do, because there was a whole bunch of people on there, and there was one guy on there with a high school diploma from Idaho, and everybody loved Troy. And right up until the very last episode, nobody anticipated him to be fired. Everybody expected him to win. And Trump fired him because he didn't have a college degree. And that summer, college tuition made a wide spike. And college prices had spiked ever since Trump fired Troy. And how he managed to get almost 70% of the voting population who doesn't have a college degree to vote for him has always frustrated me. I thought my Idaho high school education was going to take me all the way until Trump fired Troy. But what I see now is a bunch of kids with fancy college degrees without anywhere near as much experience as me that can't find a job. And I can go get one with a high school diploma because I have the experience. And there's something desperately wrong with the logic that we have millions of children now with beautiful, wonderful degrees that can't find a job. It's not about the degree that you have. It's about how hard your work ethic is and who you are as a person. But it also comes down to the reality that a lot of these wealthy corporations have shipped their jobs overseas. They have taken advantage of a tiny loophole that allows them to outsource our jobs, even financial services jobs. As somebody who worked in the mortgage industry and made the personal effort to talk to people before we had to foreclose on their homes, the fact that these banks think that they're just going to send these jobs to another country where a computer or an automated system can dial your house and then ship you to foreclosure without making a real attempt absolutely infuriates me. It was supposed to be that these low-paying jobs went overseas, but now they're sending all of our IT and financial services too? No. There is a way for us to close down the loopholes. And Trump is playing this terrible tariff game because he knows that it is an effective negotiation strategy. But the problem is he's just doing it for his benefit. You see, for decades, I've been hearing my fellow citizens say that they want a businessman to be elected president, and they want him to come in and run this country like a business. But this is what Americans are realizing right now, is that we don't want a businessman to come in and run America like a business for him or for his family. We want America to be run like a business for Americans, where we're the shareholders and we get a share of the market. And what they're doing right now it is typical owner mentality. They don't run their businesses. They hire people to run their businesses for them. They hire people like me to go get their money. And when they started referring to this most recent tax plan as a cash out on the American people, the mortgage debt collector in me just started salivating, because I know absolutely how to collect that debt from people who think they're going to cash out on us and dump and run. I know all about the deficiency judgments and everything. It's the American public who starts to wake up in 2019 to what it means to have a cash out on your taxes done. And as they start to wake up and become furious, I want them to know they need a bill collector that understands the game. And not only do I understand it, I wrote the policies and procedures for some of the companies because they didn't know what to do. And I know how to fix this for my citizens, for my country, for my friends, and for my family. And I just want a chance. I know not everybody wants to be president. The desire to bubble up doesn't bubble up in everyone. It doesn't happen. Not everybody wants to be president. Most people can look at this job and realize I'll complain.
I don't want to be president. No way. I'm very opinionated but sometimes it's really not about our opinions. When someone is in office, it's not about their opinion. And I think we often see that and with what's happening in today's world, but it's really about what's good for the American people. You have to put all of us in a whole as to what's going to be better for all of us. So what we're going to do is let's take a quick break. And when we come back, I'd like to talk about some of these other issues like you have about immigration, climate control, or climate change, I should say, healthcare for all, and gun control. So, these are some really hot items right now. And so let's go ahead and take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about that, okay?
Wonderful.
All right, so just hold on then. Well, you guys are listening to WGSN DB Going Solo Network. We are the singles talk station, and we're very excited tonight because we have a totally different special show on. I'm Cece Schatz, and so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of these other issues that are really, I think something that all of us Americans want to know more about, and so I'm excited to hear about it. So we'll be right back, so hang on tight. Ensure that okay, so we're coming right back here, and I'm excited about what we're bringing forward. We have Sharmin Smith with us. She is going to be the candidate for the 2020 presidential election. And we've been talking a little bit about her background, her journey, how she got to really want to be here and represent our wonderful, United States. And so I want to thank you and bring you right back. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It is great having you. Well, we've talked about some issues already. We've talked a little bit about your background, your wonderful book that you've written that we're hoping that's going to come into a movie, and that would be really nice for us to be able to see it on the big screen. We've talked about how you feel and how you're so passionate with regards to mental health issues. Also, I just hate to say the violence that's happening within our communities, and with regards to children and sexual abuse and all of that. So we've talked a little bit about that. I probably don't think we can ever talk enough about it. We need to be very verbal and right out there with all of that, trying to get it to stop. Make sure that those that are harming our women and our men and our children, we need to make sure that they just know that we're just going to deal with it. I mean, it's just not going to happen. We've got to do something with regards to making this a safe world for all of our citizens here. So I really applaud you for stepping forward and talking about your past and what you've experienced, how it has shaped you to be the person that you are today, and the changes that you want to make to help people along the way who've experienced such difficulties, such hardships, such turmoil. It just devastates their lives. But you want to uplift them. You want to support them as individuals, as U.S. individuals in our society, and you want to make a change. So I commend you so much for that, and I appreciate it as being a woman, mother, and all of that. So let's talk about some of these other issues which are so important to us, and we won't spend a lot of time on each one because you have a wonderful website which is the same as your name, and I'll put it up. So .com, you can see that, but I'll share it with everyone so they can have it and they can see that. Let me just do that real quick here. So that way they can go right to there, and there's her website. You can just look on it. All of the issues are right there, typed right out for you so that you can see it plain as day. Nothing's ever hidden, which is totally awesome. So also, audience out there, listeners, you can come with us right here on our platform. All you need is Google Chrome. You can come to WGSN-TV Going Solo Facebook page. You come right into our lobby and you can talk to us, or you can give us a call, and we would love to be able to take any calls any questions that you might have. I put the number up there for you. So we are here for you tonight, and we don't have a time frame, so we're going to go as long as we need to go tonight. So let's talk about the first issue, okay? Immigration. That's a hot ticket. How many walls are you going to build?
So I have a completely different perspective on immigration than Mr. Trump does.
Okay.
I'm a Mayflower descendant. And I like immigrants, even the dirty, nasty ones that bring crime and disease. I have never had a problem with an immigrant or even noticed an issue with an immigrant until Donald Trump came around. And it has caught my attention that he's a first generation American and his mother came here illegally. And he doesn't seem to trust people who come here illegally and have their children. And honestly, I never thought that there was an issue with our system, the way it was set up, that you could come here and be born here and you're magically an American. And I know other countries like Russia think we're foolish because apparently they are sending a lot of people here to have babies so that they can become Americans. And now they're just going to run for office and be moved into lifetime appointments while they do everything in their power to destroy our country. And I understand that this country has a reputation for white people thinking they can just show up here and take over, but that's not the way it's going to work around here anymore. We as Americans, the people who have been here, have gone through and witnessed an evolution where we have had to embrace the shame of our actions. We did not conquer a continent. We plowed a path right through the middle of it, but that doesn't qualify as conquering it. And as I understand it, the indigenous people of this continent used to travel freely across it for thousands of years before my ancestors showed up and claimed it as their own and started killing people, charging them, whoever was alive left to live on it. The reality that Donald Trump thinks that he doesn't have to apologize for America and he can just walk around calling people nasty names is unacceptable. It's un-American, and it is destroying us more and more every day. The Russians, we did not beat them with the Cold War. They are not going to storm our beaches like we feared during the movie Red Dawn. They have figured out our system and infiltrated us from the inside. They're not going to bomb our cities. They're going to divide us and separate us through social media. And the idea that some people would rather be Russian than be Democrat positively disgusts me. And I can't even imagine, I never in a million years imagined I would live in a time in our country where I would see these things taking hold. And now's the time for all of us to step up. We know that history repeats itself. We're smart enough to understand that we are on a very dangerous path here. We're not in the beginning stages of a dictatorship takeover. We are well down the way, and the only way to stop this is from within, from somebody who can beat him. And so there's another portion to this that people don't really understand as we talk about immigration and we talk about DNA and what it really means to be an American. And the reality is that there's a genetic connection amongst the presidency. All of the presidents are related to one king from 800 years ago. And we all know the story, whether we realize it or not. And the only way to beat Trump is to have somebody from within the genetic connection fight him. And that is going to be me. Because if there is anything that I have learned from Ancestry.com, it is that that history is a lot more interesting when you understand how you're a part of it. And thanks to Ancestry, I've been able to click 1,000 years worth of leads, and I can explain the story to all of us and how it impacts all of us. We are talking constantly about how much our country is starting to represent and be similar to medieval feudalism. And it makes perfect sense because that's where all of our processes started. Trickle-down economics started 1,000 years ago, and we're still fighting the same battle with the same rich, greedy, violent, torturing officials who think that they can just mistreat people and tax them to death and we'll just bend over and take it, and that's just not working. It used to be that the poor people resolved these issues with pitchforks and torches, and that's not the way it works here in America. America is the greatest union that was ever created. We have the ability together to collectively bargain and to make changes, but the our government is not being run like a union to protect its employees. And that's part of the change that needs to take place. This idea that businesses can get deductions and write-offs so that they can cash out and take money away from the American people, that isn't new logic. This has been going on for a long time. We have the opportunity to break the cycle for the first time. You know, as a survivor of domestic violence, and we're in Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I don't like to talk about it, but I like to talk about the cycle of abuse. When you're in an abusive relationship, you start to recognize there's a pattern. And a lot of us are seeing it alive and well in our White House right now. And a lot of survivors of domestic violence have been triggered and they've been upset. A lot of sexual assault survivors have been upset since he came on the scene because his behavior is familiar to us. We've seen it before. And this cycle of abuse that we're all trapped in, it is exhausting and it is wearing us down, and it is for the purpose of wearing us down, because if we get so exhausted, the more tired we are, the more they can get away with. And he's counting on people, he's counting on people getting tired. He's counting on people giving up. And there's a lot of people who are saying, I don't think we can beat these people. Even Trump's saying nobody can beat him, which is the best thing in the world for me. I love to be underestimated. I love the look on someone's face when they see what it is that I'm capable of. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I know exactly how to beat Trump. And this is a bigger...
Tell us a little bit about your issue on climate change. Tell us how you feel about that.
So I have a different perspective on climate change. I do believe that a lot of our problems are man-made, and I do believe that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. We've cut down 50% of our trees in the last 30 years. We don't fully understand the impact that the lack of oxygen in our environment has on us as humans, on our mood, on our ability to manage stresses and triggers and things being too hot. We have a big issue that we have to address, which we could do through the mass planting of hemp and a massive decarbonization effort. Plants have the magical ability to suck in carbon dioxide and spit out oxygen. And we have to do something to get rid of the carbon that is poisoning our atmosphere and making everything so much hotter. But there's another aspect to our climate change that it's something that came to me when I was writing the book. And the things that happened in the book that were similar, they no longer scare me. What scares me now is what I wrote that hasn't happened yet. And we do not fully understand continental drift and the way the land masses move across the core of our planet. These oil pockets are all over the planet, and our oil companies can find them. But I used a classic car in my book to explain climate change because I feel like when we get the gearheads involved, we'll be able to make a difference. And if you think of the planet as an engine with pistons and oil and moving parts, you don't ever want to take the oil out of your dream car. The engine won't run right. And the oil is in our planet in these friction spots for a reason, because as the land moves, it is necessary for the shifts. And I believe the next massive land shifts are coming. They're imminent. The earthquakes, the volcanoes, the mudslides, the sinkholes, the massive storms. One of the things that I shared in the book looks 45 years ahead, and then it looks back, and if time is fluid, it's expressed in the book in some ways. And for me, the reality that this massive event is going to happen I see it is that we have a rare opportunity right now before real mayhem hits to address some of our societal issues. One of the things that I really advocate for is the death penalty for pedophiles. And I understand that the death penalty is very controversial. You're going to have to be controversial and say things to get people's thinking and talking. And the reality is that we have Republicans running for office right now who are calling for the death penalty for women who get abortions and the doctors who provide them, for drug dealers and drug addicts, Nikki Haley went to the UN and said she supported the death penalty for LGBTQ people. And if we're going to talk about the death penalty, I'd like to talk about it for pedophiles, violent murderers, and violent rapists, because I absolutely do not want to see a time when these massive shifts hit and real mayhem breaks loose, and we have rapists and pedophiles heavily armed. We have a gun control issue in this country that I'm not sure we'll ever fully get a grasp on. I was very aware when I was writing about gun control in my book that I was pandering to Republicans. And I wrote this book before I moved to Ohio and decided to become a gun owner. The reality is not everybody should be a gun owner, and I'm at the top of that list. As somebody who has a mental health issue, I don't want a gun. I don't need to be around a gun. The only way I can feel safe is to have a gun. There's a bigger issue, and we need to start addressing the bigger issues. Yes, we have a Second Amendment. Yes, we have a right to bear arms. Do I think we need do I think regular people need an AR-15? No, absolutely not. I believe a well-regulated militia, I believe we have that with our Air Force, our Army, our Marines, our Coast Guard. I believe our Navy, I believe we have a well-regulated militia that is necessary for the protection of a free state. I don't think every person in this country needs an AR-15. I think that's unreasonable. I've been an irresponsible kid with a gun. I have been on the other end of a gun when my first marriage ended because my ex-husband pointed it and cocked it at me and told me I'd never see my daughter again and to think about it. And what we don't acknowledge as we address these mass shootings at schools and movie theaters and concerts, over 50% of the gun deaths in our country are directly connected to domestic violence. And it comes about as people are trying to leave a relationship. Over 50% of our gun deaths are because somebody took until death do us part too literally. We have to reevaluate our priorities and rediscuss the way we handle things. The idea that anybody can just get a gun, even if they have a mental health issue, not okay. The idea that somebody that's on a no-fly list can get a gun, not okay. The idea that somebody can just print a plastic gun, not okay. We need to have a conversation about it. These kids from Parkland, that shooting hit me so much harder than the other ones did. And I know that's wrong. And I know the reason it hit me so wrong is because the first person I saw report it was Occupy Democrats. And they said there was a shooting outside of Tampa. And my daughter was teaching in Tampa at the time. And I called her and no answer. And I texted her and no answer. And I logged into her Find My iPhone app so that I could track her because I'm that kind of mom. And the phone didn't move at all. And I was terrified for a good hour until she contacted me and let me know that she was safe. But this event with these children, enough is enough. That young man was trained in his school. We do not need the NRA sponsoring schools to teach children how to shoot AR-15s and then having them come back to the same school. All of our children are terrified. You and I grew up in a time where we could go to school with guns in the back of our truck. That's just the way it was in Idaho where I grew up. Everybody had a gun in their truck and nobody was worried about being shot. Times have changed and we can't quantify the impact that the lack of oxygen has on each individual person and their ability to manage their emotions. We have to look at the big picture, the holistic picture, all of it. We can't just do one thing. We can't just ban bump stocks. What does that do? It makes no sense. And the solution isn't putting guns into the hands of our teachers. We can't figure out what teachers are having inappropriate sexual relations with their students. We don't need to put guns in any of their hands. We have to find a different way to resolve it. And we're too quick just to solve stuff by shooting people here in America. There's entirely too much shooting going on. This isn't the wild, wild west.
Oh, I agree with you there. I do.
We don't need to resolve our problem.
I know exactly how you felt. There was a shooting in Fort Lauderdale, and my heart just stopped beating, I think, until I found out. And it's just the most horrendous feeling, because you think about your child and you want them to be safe, and then you feel so guilty when you realize that it wasn't their school, and then it was somebody else, and then you're like, oh my gosh, how could I think, I could think like that. But in today's world, it's just kind of what's going on, and it's just really horrible. So let's talk about something that's true and dear to my heart, and that's healthcare. I have struggled, being an American, to have healthcare. And, I've been my work history is basically working with my husband in his business. Of course, I didn't have health care because I was, a stay-at-home mom, but I was really helping him with his business. But so then, as I'm going into the work field, now that being divorced all these years and going into the work field, I'm working with smaller companies that don't offer healthcare, don't offer enough money to pay for healthcare. So what are we to do? I mean, there are good people out there that need healthcare. They're telling us that Social Security isn't going to, well, it doesn't. You can't live on Social Security. But they're saying to us, okay, well, you need to wait till you're in your 70s to get it. But then you don't get any kind of healthcare until you're like 65. So by the time you get healthcare, you have ailments that have depleted your body system or whatever, which now you're, instead of taking care of yourself so that you can live longer, so you can be healthier, you don't have health care in order to do that. So how are you going to fix this for people?
So for me, I really appreciated Obama's attempt to create the ACA. I understood what he was trying to do, but I don't like to recreate the wheel. I don't think that it makes sense. So for me, I had to take a look at healthcare, right? And it was so confusing, right? We have Medicare, we have Medicaid, we have TRICARE for military, we have TRICARE Prime, we have TRICARE Standard, we have TRICARE for life, we have the VA, we have CHIP, we have Obamacare, we have almost a dozen government healthcare programs with a dozen sets of bureaucracies and red tapes, a dozen sets of payroll, and each of these insurance companies provides a separate set of fees and payment, what they'll pay to each company. It's ridiculous. For example, I have PTSD, and I received Social Security disability for my PTSD. I stopped working in 2011. I pursued Social Security in 2013. My husband receives TRICARE because he's military. So I have two forms of government health insurance. I have had multiple surgeries to repair the long-term damage from the trauma that I survived. Let's just do some fun, easy math. And let's say my last surgery was $100,000. Medicare will only pay 80%. So they'll pay $80,000. So then the company, the doctor, bills TRICARE, but TRICARE says they'll only pay $10,000 for that surgery. So if you want my $10,000, you have to give back their $80,000. So what the doctor does is they just write off the 20 grand that I still owe because they don't want to accept the TRICARE. The best way to resolve this issue is to combine all of the government health care plans into one. Split the difference between Medicare and TRICARE so our doctors are still getting something to get paid for, and so that we're not fleecing our country and our fellow citizens, and use our Medicare tax deduction out of our paycheck to pay for all of it. The ACA upset me so much because it was another fee, another tax, and it doesn't make sense. Bernie's plan upset me because it was another fee, another tax, another program. I don't want another program. I just want one. But this is the thing about me. When I do something, I do it right. So I want my healthcare to have not just all the physical stuff I need, not just the mental health care and the drug addiction. I want dental and vision and hearing and speech and everything else that we need. I want my American citizens to be cared for and provided for. And as a military brat and a military spouse, I know I don't speak for everyone in the military, but I refuse to believe that they would not be willing to lay their lives down on the line for these strangers, these fellow citizens, but not be willing to share their pricing for healthcare. That's ridiculous to me. Let's combine it all into one and let's make it work. Now, we have a 1.85% tax deduction that comes out of everyone's paycheck until $120,000 or $128,000. So if you make $300,000 a year, you only pay tax at 1.85% taxes on that first 120,000, and the rest of it's free money, except for, you know, FICA. But the idea that you're capping Social Security and not providing health care to our citizens is foolish. I would lift the cap. And that is only going to impact a small percentage of people in this country, but my tax plan counteracts it. It is actually a better plan overall for American citizens. But we have to fund this the way it's already being funded. The fact that we have to wait until we're 65 or 70 years old to use the Medicare that we paid for 50 years is unacceptable. It's unacceptable, and make someone else go out and get a separate policy, it's ridiculous. If employers want to provide a Gucci policy to their employees after this healthcare plan, they can provide plastic surgery. That's what people want. They need healthcare. They need prescriptions. They need mental health care. They need vision. They need dental. They need hearing. We make enough money in this country to pay for everything we need. But we gotta stop letting these businessmen manipulate the numbers so that they make the most money off of us as possible. We have to run the system so it's tight and it's frugal. As a military wife and a spouse, I have had to do the budget in the days before direct deposit and the days of direct deposit. I know what it means to live paycheck to paycheck. I've been an enlisted spouse and a commissioned spouse, and I'm a retired spouse. When I was 24, I was a homeless single mother. Donald Trump doesn't want a poor person to handle any of the budget. He just wants a rich person to do it. But I don't want a rich person to do it because they don't understand what it means to pinch a penny into a copper wire just so they can eat. They don't understand what it means to actually run a budget and make things work, because rich people, whenever they need more money, they just go get more money. They don't even balance their checkbooks. They don't know exactly how much money they have. They don't know exactly where it goes every second. How else did our federal government manage to lose $21 trillion? Now, I love our military, but the idea that the military-industrial complex is over 50% of our budget and they've lost $21 trillion? No, not on my watch. That's completely unaccepectable. The math doesn't make sense. And the thing about
maybe they need a woman.
So I like to say that it's time to put a lock on the wallet and put it in mommy's purse, because guys, they don't get it. It is time to break it down to a way that makes sense. And I've been reading up on modern monetary theory, which is so fascinating to me that most people don't understand it. And because I had already made the decision that as a mortgage underwriter, I was just going to look at it from a perspective of a budget and what we need and how we split it all out. And as I started to learn more about modern monetary theory, I realized I was absolutely on track with my logic. We need to have some debt. There's healthy debt. We need to be able to pay our bills, but we have to budget it properly. You know, when you're looking at the debt to income ratio for a mortgage, the biggest debt someone can have is their house. and they don't want it to be more than 29% of your total income. But if you think of our military industrial complex getting 50% of our budget, that means I would initially look at dropping them down to 29%. And there's a lot of people going to have a heart attack about that. But I refuse to believe that the numbers make sense the way they're written right now. And until I get a chance to actually look at the numbers, none of this makes any sense. And as a debt collector, the hardest message I ever delivered to somebody was that it was time to reevaluate their priorities. And America, it's time to reevaluate our priorities. We deserve better than this. We make enough money to have everything we want, and there's no reason for us to treat people nasty to do it. There is nothing so wrong with this country that it can't be corrected with a little common sense and compassion. All of our citizens are wonderful, even the jerks that need to have, an attitude adjustment take place. There is a mentality that some people only understand a punch in the mouth. And so you have to find a way to punch them in the mouth, but we don't run around solving our problems by hitting people. We use our words, and we use our critical thinking skills, and we use our logic. And I know that we make enough money to cover everything we need in this country. And I know that as long as the elected officials, and what we see right now is a bunch of people who all understand the money stepping up to run for office everywhere because they refuse to believe that we don't make enough money to pay for everything else too. And they know we're just getting ripped off. And it is a beautiful time that we're in. It's painful, it's frustrating, it's frightening, there's changes taking place every day, but every day I see proof that the American spirit, the good, the kind, the hardworking, it's still alive, and it is strong, and it is building stronger than ever. And when this is over, we will know the strength of the American people. And I have nothing but faith for the future of what's coming for us.
Wow. We talked a lot tonight. So we're getting a little bit of feedback here, so I'm sorry about that. But, these are great topics. They're important topics, and they're real topics. They're real topics to us here, the little people, who are the ones that vote. They're the ones that support. We're the ones that we're loyal, to our, to the president, to the vice president, to everyone that's that's representing us. We're loyal to them. So we just ask for them to be loyal back to us, and give us what we need. We're not asking for more, like, we even in your website, you talk about minimum wage. My gosh, how can you live on minimum wage?
I mean, it doesn't make sense.
And we need those services. That's the thing, is the people that are on minimum wage, we need them. We need what they do for us.
Too, and they don't deserve to live some subpar life just because they serve us fries in the drive-thru. I like my fries, and I want them to be clean, and I want them to be healthy when they're serving it to me. They deserve that. Everybody does. This idea that one person is better than the other person, it is the heart of what is destroying us. I remember when I got my first minimum wage job, and I was living in Idaho. I was working in Oregon. It was a border town. I was making $5.25 an hour. The minimum wage nationwide was $4.85. The price of gas was 99 cents a gallon. My wage was 5 times an hour the price of gas. If we had a situation today where wages were tied to a commodity like gas, and when gas prices spiked a few years ago and it destroyed everybody, if we had a situation now where it was tied to gas and the gas price could never be a certain amount within the wage, or the wage was always 5 times the price of gas, we would be in a better situation now on multiple levels. For one, people would have more money to spend, right? This is America. If we're not spending, it's not because you haven't advertised it, it's because we don't have any money. And in order to make we talk about the economy, I always think about income fluidity. And we talk about the fluidity of the income, and it sounds scary because it's a fancy word, but it's really not. Trump said that he was going to drain the swamp. But the truth is he doesn't understand how the swamp was created, so he doesn't have a clue how to go about draining it. And I give a perfect example in my book of how you do it, and it absolutely comes from wages. Like I don't know if $15 an hour is the right wage. I don't know if 5 times the price of a gallon of gas is the right wage for us at this point in time. I'm not sure anybody knows what the right wage is, but it's certainly not $7.25 an hour. I'm not confident that it's 15. When I graduated high school and I got my first professional job, the logic that was given to me was that as long as I was making my age, I was doing good. And I was 17 and I was making 20 grand a year, so I must be doing good. Now, we could never set a minimum wage that was based on someone's age. People wouldn't hire, old people wouldn't get hired. It just never worked. Businesses are cheap.
Making a lot of money.
It would never work. Businesses are cheap. But if we think about us as Americans in this new millennium, this is 2018, and we're finally old enough to vote, right? It seems like in 2018, everybody finally cares about voting. And if we were paying people our age now, $18.18 an hour, with a guaranteed $1.01 an hour raise every January the 1st, I truly believe that by the time we get to 2020, we'll have the hindsight to prove and to know that the only way to fix the economy is to pay people more money. It has to come together. We have the double benefit of people making more money. They pay more in taxes. They need less services. It has to happen. It's not about the redistribution of wealth. It's about the cycling of the money, the fluidity of the money within the economy and how it flows from one location to another. We can't leave it dammed up for a couple of beavers to swim and play with while everybody downstream dries up and dies. And that's what we have right now. We got to start poking holes in the dam, and we got to start flooding money back downstream, because we are literally pricing people out of living.
I think it's a mind shift actually that we need to do. And I'll share with you a story. When I was younger and I was working at a law firm quite some time ago, and so it was time for my raise, right? And he hadn't said anything, and I'm thinking, okay, what's going to happen here? Finally, so I mentioned, something to him about it, and he said, oh, well, I've got that covered, Cece. And I said, what do you mean? 'Cause I'm not getting any more money in my paycheck. And he goes, well, I've changed your title. He changed my title to something that he thought was a lot more predominant, that I should be happy that I'm being called. And, from a secretary to a paralegal, I'm being called this, which I've been doing the work anyhow. But I was like, you gotta be, I said, you know what? Honestly, I said, you can call me anything you want to call me. I said, you just need to put that in my paycheck. And so he realized that I was very upset over it, and he did give me a raise. But it's the thing is, it's our mind shift. I mean, what is the value of the services that are rendered? We need these type of services, trades, and people that are getting paid. We need to make sure that individuals are getting paid enough money that they can keep themselves out of a cardboard box at night. They can have air conditioning or heat if they need it. We need to be able to feed our American citizens. I mean, these small little things are things that we need. And it's not something that I think we need to take lightly. And I agree with you about the ones that have a lot of money. I think they just lose touch of reality of how the everyday working man and woman feel. And then we've got our children that are coming up, they're trying, and like you said, in college, they're spending a fortune to go to college. They get their degree and they can't make a fraction of it. They can't pay back their student loans. I mean, they're struggling. And I know that my daughter, coming out of college, $100,000 in debt. My gosh, my parents would have had a heart attack if they'd known that.
My daughter went to co-sign a scholarship application for me. There's no way she'd have filled out a FAFSA. It just
No, no. And bless my daughter's heart. I mean, she's doing well today. She's working very, very hard, but we cannot impose that kind of debt on our young people. We want them to be educated. We want to encourage them. Every child should be able to have the right for education and not having to go without simply because they can't afford it. Because that benefits all of us as United citizens. The smarter we can make our young people, the more adapt we can make them to care for us. My gosh, what are we thinking? You know, it's just, so I look at this and I'm thinking to myself, we need common sense in our office today. We need that. Sure, maybe we need, business people. We might need that, but we need someone to lead us that has friggin' common sense that say, hold it, stop the bus. This doesn't make sense. Our American people need health care. They need to be able to make enough money to survive. And we are, we live in a wonderful land. I've traveled outside of our country. I know what poverty looks like. I've seen it in our streets and I've seen it in homes elsewhere. And we should not. We need to embrace each other, and the violence that's going on. Sometimes I wonder if that's just a wake-up call for us to be able to, we can't get attention anywhere else, so we've got to do something so drastic to be able to get attention. And that's just not, I know there's a lot of things about it, and I'm not a real big politics kind of person. I'm an individual person, and I know what people, how they suffer, what they go through. I deal a lot with people traveling through divorce, the devastation of families, their finances. I've felt it. I know it. I've lived through it. And so I know what it's like to be on the other end of just not knowing what you're going to do. So we turn to the ones, our leaders. We look up to them, and we want someone that's got common sense, that's got our back. We do. And so I want to thank you so much for sharing with us tonight. Just a fraction, I know it's a fraction of what you want to do to make America great. And what I want to throw up every time I hear that, make American great again. What the heck? We are.
Yes. Listen, I can put a positive spin on anything, and let me prove it. Donald Trump has made America great again. More people are running for office than ever before. More people are registering to vote. More people are protesting. More people are speaking up. This is great. He did a wonderful job. Now it's time for him to go.
Yeah. Well, I just want us to be better. I want to encourage anyone out there that wants to run. I love the fact that if someone with the normal political views or the normal statutes within our frame of environment would look at you and laugh, they'd say, oh yeah, right, the education, this and that, and things that you've challenged, the challenges you've had in your life. But I say the other way around. You're one of us. You've been in the trenches and you've dug yourself out, but you've dug yourself out with your friggin' eyes open, and you see everything that's around you. So kudos to you, And now, how are we going to support you to be able to move forward? If someone resonates with what you're saying tonight, what can they do to get behind you and lift you up to be able to move you forward into the platform that you want to be able to go in, President of 2020? How can we do it?
Well, first it starts with the grassroots. So follow me everywhere on all my social media platforms. There's not a lot of Sharmin Smiths anywhere. I guarantee you're going to find me. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Pinterest too. I got a Pinterest page. I've been interested in.
You're big, girl.
I have a webpage, sharminsmith.com. I'm not asking for donations until after the midterms are over. I want people to fund their candidates. Right now, all of this is coming out of my pocket. I can't do it forever. I absolutely can't fund this whole campaign on my own. I'm going to have to ask for donations. I didn't check my bank account before I checked this dream. I just went with it and figured if it was meant to be, the money would come. I am going to need donations. That is going to happen. But right now, I'm more interested in volunteers. Your time is more valuable to me than your money, right? I need people to share the news, to share videos, to share music, some of the radio and the interviews that I do. And I need to get my voice out there. I need to get my name out there, and people are going to laugh at me, and that's okay. My name is Sharmin, just like the toilet paper, only with an S. I'm smarter, I'm stronger, I smell better than the TP, and I will clean up DC. We don't need just any old TP in DC. We need Sharmin. And I think we need to laugh again. And I think we need to joke around with each other again. And, one of the things that Trump has ruined for us is that we used to be able to commiserate with each other over our mutual disgust of our elected officials. And we could joke and tease, and Trump has ruined that because he can dish it out, but he can't take it. And if there's anything I know about this process and what's going to come out, people are going to be laughing and joking and making fun of me and making fun of my name. That's okay. I've heard it all before. There's nothing I haven't heard. I got a great comeback line for every joke I ever heard. You don't keep a name like this without developing a sense of humor about it. And right now, it is the perfect way to beat Trump because he can't stand to be laughed at, and people are laughing at him because he's a moron. And meanwhile, the really intelligent people can find ways to make you laugh with them. And we can do this. There's nothing so wrong with America that it can't be corrected with a little common sense and compassion. We can laugh together. We can talk together. We can have conversations. And that's how it gets started. And Sharmin's an easy thing to talk about. You've heard the name before. It's a little weird. It's a little different. She's kind of funny. She's not afraid of the death penalty. She likes immigrants. She understands money. I was a homeless single mom. I own a mansion. It's got a fantastic story that connects to this campaign and into politics. There's so much good stuff to read. Buy a copy of my book. It is really a so much better read post-election than it was pre-election. And
I'm looking forward to the movie.
Yeah.
I think it would be great. Yeah.
It's so exciting because the producer, when they read it, they were really challenged because it's one book, but it's 5 movies. And so when they dove in, I was like, yes, this is going to happen. You know, and it really is going to come together. We're going to heal as a nation. We can overcome whatever it is that comes at us as long as we do it together. They want to divide us, and we are strong. We are great. America is amazing in our diversity. You touched on something about embracing each other. When I grew up in my home, it was so obvious to me that everybody was just tolerating me. Nobody wanted me around. They just tolerated me. And I remember the first time I met people who embraced me for me and my sense of humor, and they liked me. We need to move from tolerating each other to embracing each other, because there are so many good people in this country, whether they're Black or they're Hispanic or they're Asian or they're white. There's good and bad amongst all of us.
Can I say something about that? Because I think that when those around us feel that they are being tolerated, and I'm sorry that you experienced that, I think it's because we don't understand them. And so when we don't understand someone that's different from us, then we put up with them or whatever, because we simply don't understand them. So I think as we begin to unite as Americans, let's open our hearts and our minds for better understanding of each other. And I think that will create less violence. If you're truly a friend, you truly love someone else, you're going to want to uplift them and take care of them versus do harm to them. I mean, of course, you're going to have mental problems, people with those kind of issues that we hope that we can get them help, that kind of thing. But in reality, what we don't know and what we fear is what we don't understand. And so we want to be able to have open arms to be able to understand someone better. And I think you coming on tonight was really great because, I didn't know about you prior to this evening. And when you were gracious enough when I reached out to you to listen and say, sure, I'll come on board, I was just so touched and honored to have you. So I want to thank you so much for sharing with us here on this platform, because our platform is about understanding each other, is about helping and uplifting and paying it forward. And so you certainly have done that in your lifetime. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Is there any closing words that you'd like to say to the audience?
I do want to thank you for pointing out something about my website. And it was something that was really personal to me as I started doing this. I really did put a lot of information in there. I've had people who are professional advisors to politicians tell me to go in and take out most of the information because they felt there's just too much. But it always upset me every time I went to a politician's website and there was one little blurb or paragraph, like, how am I supposed to feel like I can trust this person? So I put a lot of myself into it. There's mistakes. I left mistakes, so you know I did it myself. It's not perfect, right? I'm a normal human being. For me, it was always about what I learned from my mistakes. And I've certainly learned a lot in this process. And it's an evolution. I'm going to be changing. There'll be changes that'll take place along the process. And I'm really looking forward to it. To feel like that there is an opportunity, and it has come all my whole life. The Ancestry.com was able to put everything into a much different perspective for me. And it feels like a lot of this stuff has been prepping for hundreds of years. I mean, I know it sounds weird, but this is a dating channel, and my husband, no man really wants to be the first dude. It's a tough job. And a lot of people can look at Bill Clinton and say, I don't know what a first dude's supposed to be, but I don't think it's supposed to be him. But my husband, when I did my tree, I did his tree too. And his family and my family connect back a couple hundred years ago. I can trace my relations to George Washington. And during the Revolutionary War, he had a liveryman who traveled with him across the country and made sure his uniforms were straight, and made sure he ate, and made sure his mail was handled. And he traveled with him for years. And he's my husband's grandfather. And so there's so many ways where it feels like this has come together and it is meant to be. My husband is a huge comfort to me, and his military experience is a great benefit to us. We appreciate our country and the service and the commitment that everybody here makes. And we love the rights that we have as American citizens. And we take this very important, it's very serious for us. Well, we're gonna laugh and joke a lot because we're comedians and we can tell jokes about just about anything, even if it's not right. But we promise we're gonna behave, we're gonna tell some jokes, we're gonna make some mistakes, but we enjoy each other's company. And we laugh, and that is something that a lot of people are missing out on. We're certainly we're not seeing it in the relationship that's in the White House now. And it is definitely going to be, our dynamic as a military spouse and as a military family, because he was gone for so long. Our dynamic is a little different than other people's. And our relationship is a little bit different, but I think it's very normal for what people these days deal with. He doesn't help out around the house. It's his house. He cleans it too. He doesn't cook dinner tonight to give me a break. He likes to eat, and he's a better cook than I am, so he cooks dinner. We have a relationship. We have a partnership, and he's never sexier to me than when he's vacuuming or folding clothes. But when he's cracking a joke about something, it just warms my heart. And there are so many jokes he makes. I just can't wait for America to meet him, because you're gonna love your first dude.
That's very cool.
It's really
say a little bit about the relationship. So many people crave what they're seeing with regards to the royal family in England. And how many people gathered around to watch Harry, get married. And now we follow them, and what we love and we crave so much is that loving environment that they're all, portraying to us. I'm sure know they have ups and downs, and just like everybody else, but you don't see that in our our first family. You don't see that loving type of environment. And so, you know, again, it brings us back to how can you unite with someone if there's a cold exterior about them. And so, and I'm not putting any of them down or anything, but I think that we all feel that. And so we do want that warmth in our first family. We do want that. And I think as American out there, we kind of crave that. We want to look up to the people that represent our nation. We want to be able to look up to them. And I just think right now with a lot of things that are happening, I'm not saying that he's doing a good job, bad job, or anything like that, because I don't even want to go there with it. But I do feel that coming into 2020, we want change, and we want someone that we admire and that we look up to and that we know they have our backs. So
especially for our kids. We have children that range from 20 to 13. And I can tell you it's a lot different raising teenagers today than it was 10 years ago. And when I look at some of these parents with their sweet little kindergarten babies, and I imagine what the world will be like in the next 10 years, we absolutely have to do something then. And as a mom, I take it really personally. And I'll joke and tease, and I'm certainly self-deprecating, but I'm a good mom. And I've got good kids. And I promise you, I have faith in America. I have faith in the American people. There's a big change that's taken place. There's an energy shift that's taken place. People are seeing it. They're tired of suffering. We talk about England and loving them, but this feudalism, they broke through this a long time ago. They got past this. We're still stuck in it. And we have to find a way to break this chain because it's not benefiting us. It's making us weaker, and we deserve to be strong. We were once the most powerful nation on the planet. We will be again. But
yes,
everything swings on a pendulum, right? It swings one way really far and then it levels back out. And so we swung really far over to the right side. And we're seeing things alive in this country that we thought were done. But the truth is, we could have done a much better job handling them the first time. And we're getting a second chance to make it right. But we're going to have to pull together, all of us. And we're going to have to work really hard together for the next couple of years. I mean, really forever. As long as we live, we're going to have to work hard. But the next 2 years are going to be a roller coaster. So I want everybody to lace up their shoes and take their vitamins, because he's counting on us getting weak. And we're just now getting stronger. And we're going to keep getting stronger. And it's going to keep getting better. And it's going to be okay. I really do believe it. That might be because I'm a Poke and I believe in manifest destiny, but hey, I believe in the manifest destiny and I'm a Pope, so I believe we can make this right.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on our show tonight. It's wonderful having you, and I appreciate it so much, that you've shared with us, how you feel and what's going on in your life and all of that. So we really do appreciate it, and we want to get behind you. And so those out there that are listening, she said just follow her in all the platforms, social media platforms that she has right now. That would be the best way to support her. And then, when it's ready to give you contributions, of course, you're going to need those to be able to move up, because I mean, you're talking about running against some of the big hitters financially. Right. Yeah.
And I did buy one of those $900 million Powerball or Mega Million tickets. But as I understand it, I'm going to need $1 billion to win this campaign. So Mega Millions isn't going to save me. It's just going to get me started.
I know. It's unbelievable. And you know what? You sit and you think about that. Just that alone, people going without health care and they're spending this kind of money running for office. It just does not make sense to me.
Healthcare away, and to take Social Security away, and to take food stamps away, and to take Medicare away, and the situation he's going to put our country in, have you ever seen the movie The Kingsman?
I'm sorry, the what?
The Kingsman.
The Kingsman. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In the end, cell phones, and everybody goes crazy with their guns.
Right.
Yeah. We have to do something, America. We're better than this, and we need to heal, and we need to come together, and we need to work together. We need to do something about these people who want to destroy us. And it has been a problem that we haven't dealt with, because we do have some right-wing hate groups in this country that are exploding right now. And that means all of us have to come together, and we have to work against them, because that's not what America stands for. That's not the foundation that we were built on. It's not the reason we were here. Now, maybe we came here for the wrong reasons. Maybe we started this country for the wrong reasons, but we're here. We're not going anywhere. We need to make this right before it gets any worse.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, we have Sharmin Smith with us. She's running for president candidacy for 2020. And I want to thank you so much for being on the show with me tonight. Wow, we had a jam-packed show. This was a special edition. I want to appreciate Eric Ray for pushing his wonderful show aside for us to be able to broadcast here tonight. So we'll be back on here next week with Eric Ray, and he does the Healthy Living with Empowerment. So we'll be back with that show. But you know, we have to do whatever we can do to make the U.S. strong, and we need to unite as being citizens here in our wonderful country. And so whatever it takes, we need to do. And so I hope that tonight you heard a little bit of what you needed to hear, so that you could yourself make a difference. Because what little bit of things that we can do, I mean, just a tiny little amount that we can do. Be kind to someone else. Show someone understanding if you don't really quite understand what they're going through. Give them some sympathy. Give them, a helping hand. Be able to be open enough to listen to other views, like what we heard tonight. Listen to what Sharmin had to say was tremendous. I think a great stepping stone for us this evening. And as we move forward into this new election, and most importantly, if you don't vote, please go out and sign up and start voting and make a difference, because your vote will always make a difference. It always counts, and that's what's so important. Well, this is Cece with Going Solo, and I am with WGSN DB Going Solo Network. Our network here is based on singles living a best life, connecting with each other, understanding, growing, and supporting each other. And that's what our station's all about. So it's not just about divorce, dating, and all healthy living, all that. It's about uniting each other and helping each other, getting through probably one of the most difficult times in our lives. And we want to make sure that we're there for you. So love you guys, and I'll see you on, I think we're not having a show on Thursday, I'm not sure, but I will see you again right here on our WGSN DB Going Solo Network Facebook page. Love you. Bye for now.